welcome to Anchored Life with Kaale. I've been pretty open in the past that I've struggled with anxiety and continue to a bit now. So I've been asked how I manage my anxiety. I thought I would come on here and share with you guys some of the tools that I've used in the past and use still on a daily basis to prevent anxiety from taking over my day and keeping me from reaching my full potential. So here are 7 ways to get rid of anxiety and overthinking. I want to start out by saying that a couple weeks ago I posted a video on training your thinking and taking medication for mental health. So definitely check that video out because the way you think is definitely going to impact you if you're having anxiety. And also if you have to take medication for your mental health, sometimes that's just inevitable and there's no shame in that. But you can check that video out later. Right now we're getting into 7 tips on how to prevent anxiety on a daily basis. They're listed in no particular order. Make sure you take notes. Tip number 1 is don't look at your phone right before bed or first thing in the morning. I heard this tip from Lisa Harper and it really has helped me because I used to just lay in bed in the morning if I had nowhere to be. I would just lay in bed, scroll through social media, and just kind of lay there and have a lazy start to my day. But I have realized that looking at social media first thing, that's what my mind is getting set on. I'm comparing, I'm seeing problems, I'm just cluttering up my mind with things that don't need to be there, and that really contributes to anxiety. So I tend to feel anxious first thing in the morning. I know a lot of people feel anxious before they go to bed, but for me, it's first thing in the morning. I guess I'm just thinking about all the things that I need to do in the day. So starting out the day, scrolling on my phone really does not help by adding more clutter to my already overwhelmed mind. So I have just had to make that decision that I am not going to be scrolling through my phone first thing in the morning. I try to have some breakfast, spend some quiet time with God just to get my priorities aligned and get my mind set for the day. So whether it is right before bed or first thing in the morning when you tend to feel the most anxious, you just need to set those boundaries for yourself. Tip number 2 is worship God. When you remind yourself how big God is, it really helps put your problems into perspective and you realize that maybe they're not as big as you thought they were. Take a moment not to think about yourself or your problems, but just think about how great God is and what He has done for you. I like to have a worship playlist to play so that when I am just feeling so overwhelmed and tired and I just don't have the energy to come up with the words to worship God, I have a song that has the words for me and I can just sing along, and it really helps to change my attitude and my perspective and set it on what's important. Praising God reminds us of His goodness, reminds us of how He has come through for us in the past. It helps shift our perspective into right thinking, and it bolsters our faith for the moment. It also helps us to realize that we need to lean on God for our strength instead of trying to do it on our own. Tip number 3 is breathing exercises. My counselor taught me to breathe through anxiety. So I personally use a timer on my phone and it goes off every few hours throughout the day. I have it on repeat so that every day it goes off at the same times and it reminds me that I need to do my breathing exercises. All my friends and family are used to my timer going off throughout the day and they all know what it means. And my husband every time is like, breathe, and sometimes he does the breathing exercises with me. It's been really helpful for me just to remind myself because when I don't have the timer on my phone, then I try and just do breathing when I remember, and I do not remember because I am busy doing all sorts of other things. When you're doing your breathing exercises, you can either just focus on your breath as it goes in and out, or you can put some words to your breath as they go in and out so that you have something to focus on, which is what I need to do. And actually, I tend to turn my breathing exercises into a little mini prayer. So what I like to do is when I breathe in, I think of breathing in God's peace, and then when I'm breathing out, I breathe out His praise. So whatever that would be meaningful to you, just put those words in. So breathing in His peace, breathing out His praise. And for me, that's really helpful, and it helps remind me to keep leaning on God throughout the day, as well as helping me with my breathing exercises. Breathing out is connected to your parasympathetic nervous system, which helps you to relax. So it's important to really focus on that out breath more than the in breath. So the whole thing needs to be long, otherwise you're going to start hyperventilating, and that is going to make you more anxious and reduce the oxygen to your brain, which will help you to not think clearly, which is not what we're going for here. So make sure the whole breath is slow, and especially the out breath. So you might find it helpful to count while you're breathing. So you can breathe in 1, 2, 3, 4, and breathe out 1, 2, 3, 4. When I was working in an emergency department as a nurse, I did not know how I could insert this breathing into my day. When I was sitting in my counselor's office and everything's calm and quiet, sure, works well to do breathing exercises. But I was like, how am I supposed to do breathing exercises when everything's chaotic around me and I really can't just stop and close my eyes and be all peaceful, right? But my counselor told me, just gotta do them anyways. So you don't need to close your eyes. You don't need to stop everything around you, make everyone be quiet. You just kind of be still for a moment, take a deep breath, focus on the breath, and then keep doing what you're doing. And that one breath, or two if you can sneak it in, is gonna really help you and your body to relax and be able to reset, to be able to keep doing what you're doing. My anti-anxiety tip number 4 is exercise. This is so good for your mental health and obviously your physical health too. Really, it's a win-win. Exercising really boosts your endorphins, which helps you to have a better mood, and it reduces those stress hormones like cortisol. For me, taking time to exercise makes me feel like I've accomplished something in my day and I've done something really healthy for myself, so it makes me feel good. I love dancing, so I tend to do a lot of dance classes on YouTube and Instagram. I do all sorts of yoga, Pilates, strength training, like really there's anything on YouTube. Just check it out and it's free. So there's really no excuse for not working out at home. I know a lot of people like to go to gyms and fitness classes because they're super great for helping you get motivated, having all these people around you. But right now while I'm filming this, my province is still on COVID lockdown, so gyms are not a thing right now. Anti-anxiety tip number 5 is pray about it. It is God who fights your battles. You do not have to do this on your own. So bring your concerns to God. That's something that I've been noticing recently, is that I tend to try and do things all on my own when I am missing out on such a great resource, because God wants to help. In 1 Peter 5 verse 7 in the Bible, it says, "Cast all your anxiety on God because He cares for you." Catch that? He cares for you. He wants to hear about what you're anxious about. Nothing is too small or too big to bring to God. He cares and He wants to help you with that. And you're going to miss out on such a great, helpful resource if you try and do everything on your own strength and don't bring it to God. God wants to have a relationship with you. He wants to know what's going on in your life, and He wants to hear from you. And you might feel like you're asking God for too much. You don't want to pester Him. And I have felt like that in the past too. But honestly, I don't think you can ask God for too much. He is too big for that. He can definitely say no, but He just wants to hear from you. My tip number 6 is talk to someone. Things are so less scary when you talk to someone about your problems. Things tend to get bigger and darker and scarier when they're kept in the dark. But when you actually bring it out to a trusted person, not just airing it out on social media like dirty laundry, you're able to start finding healing and get perspective on your problem instead of just letting that secret keep festering and eating you up inside. I highly recommend talking to a counselor about what's going on in your life. They have very professional and objective advice and perspective on your situation. And honestly, I think that everyone could benefit from counseling. We all have some sort of hang up or situation or way that we're thinking that isn't healthy that could really use some help on getting past and getting through. So there is no shame in getting counseling. Everybody should do it. I personally have found it so helpful to go to a counselor. When I leave her office, I just feel equipped and ready to take on my issues and just have the tools to be able to tackle those issues as well. And I did have to try 2 counselors before I found the third one who I still see. The first 2 were just not quite the right fit for me. So if you do try a counselor and they're not quite matching with your personality, or their techniques aren't quite what you need, well, there is no problem in trying another one. Just try another counselor and hopefully they'll be the right fit for you. I know the cost of counseling can be a barrier for some people for actually being able to go, because it can be expensive. But you might be able to find a program through your work or your church or some other place that you're involved in that will help cover the costs of counseling. At my work, there is a program where you can get 12 free counseling sessions in a year. So make sure to check that out at your workplace or wherever you're involved. You don't want to miss out on that help if you need it. And my last tip for you, number 7, is to stop and notice what you're thinking about instead of pushing those thoughts away and ignoring them. And that is a long title, but it is a good one because this one's really important. I know for myself, oftentimes when I feel anxious, I just keep trying to stay busy and push those thoughts away and just, work through all that stress and anxiety. But that really doesn't help because it just tends to linger in the background and make you feel tense and anxious and worried. So you actually need to stop and look at what you're thinking about and ask yourself, do I need to be worried about this? Because sometimes I notice that there's things that are kind of hanging over me, just making me feel worried and tense, that when I actually look at them, I realize I don't actually have to be worried about this. I can let this go for now. I love in Pastor Craig Groeschel's messages on worry for nothing, how he categorizes the potential outcomes for our worries in 3 different ways. So the first one would be that we are worrying about something and then it actually never ends up happening. How often does that happen to us, right? Like we worry so much and we waste so much time thinking about what we're gonna do and how are we gonna react and how am I gonna have enough energy for that, and all these worries, and then it doesn't even happen. So we just wasted a lot of energy and worry and time on nothing. And the second thing would be that we're worrying about something and it does happen, but it's really not as bad as we thought it was going to be. So once again, we were worrying for nothing. Then the third thing would be that we are worrying about something and it happens and it is just as bad as we thought it was going to be, or maybe even worse. But God is there with us in it. For myself, I often realize that I'm doing this. I think about this thing that's going to possibly happen in the future and I'm so worried about it, but I forget that God is going to be there with me through it all. He says so many times in the Bible, I will never leave you or forsake you. So he for sure is going to be there with you in that thing when it happens, if it happens even. So you don't need to worry about it. You can let it go. Give it over to God and remember that he has you in the palm of his hands and he is going to be there with you. I have a bonus exercise for you that I'm going to share on how to clear your mind and just focus your thoughts. So I use this exercise when my mind is racing, when my thoughts are just all over the place and I can't seem to calm down. I like to use this one before bed or really just whenever I'm feeling just totally out of control in my thought life. I got this from one of my counselors and I find it really helpful. So this is how you do it. You take a moment to be still and let all of your crazy thoughts come into your mind. One by one, as they come into focus, you're going to either categorize them as past, present, or future. So if a thought comes in, oh, I am really nervous to talk to my boss next week. Well, you're going to categorize that one as future and move on to the next one. So a thought comes in, I'm cold right now, I should go get a sweater. Well, that's a present thought. Then you're thinking, oh, that girl really hurt me in the 5th grade. That is past. Next. So you just do that with each thought that comes into your head. You just categorize them as past, present, or future. And then when the thought just keeps coming back into your head, you can tell yourself, okay, no, I already categorized it. moving on. And for me, I find that to be so helpful in really organizing my thoughts, and it just helps me to be able to think clearly and get those things out of the way, because it's not like you're ignoring all these thoughts that are going into your head. In fact, you are looking at them and you're acknowledging them, and then you are letting them drift away so they're not bothering you anymore. There you have it, my top 7 tips that I use personally to get rid of anxiety and overthinking on a daily basis. Hopefully some of these tips were helpful to you, if not all. I would love to know, let me know down in the comments, was one of these tips in particular extra helpful for you? Or maybe there's a tip that I don't have on my list that I need to hear about, so let me know. Make sure that you like this video and hit subscribe to my channel so that you can keep up with my weekly helpful videos. I'll see you soon.